Hey everybody, it's Peter, and this is the 2024 Yamaha Tenere 700 and Tenere. I don't know exactly how everybody says it. Seems like everybody says it's slightly different around the world, but you guys know what this bike is. And we're gonna take a look at the 2024, which has a number of little updates. Now, one of the updates you're gonna see on this bike is the anniversary edition. This is the Canadian paint job, special Canadian anniversary edition. We're filming here in Canada at McLean Sports. We'll talk about them in just one second, but this bike is basically the same everywhere around the world except for the paint scheme. But we are going to dig into some of the new things, this TFT display, the ABS modes, that kind of thing. And I'm going to try to talk about some of the things that the other videos aren't talking about, just to give you a pretty in-depth view of what this bike is, who it's for, and maybe if it's right for you. So again, filming here at McLean Sports here in Fredericton, New Brunswick. If you are interested in any of these bikes and anywhere near New Brunswick, make sure you check them out and make sure you swing by and check them out. And if you're not near there, make sure you do me a favor, hit the like button on this video, because they give me complete access to their entire motorcycle lineup. That's Suzuki, KTM, Yamaha, and more. And we get to go back to these bikes again and again and again. So if you have questions about this bike, about this video, about anything like that, we can come back to this bike again and again to make sure that you get the questions that you want answered here on video. So make sure you let me know in the comments what you want to know. Let's get going with this review. So the first thing we got to talk about is what this bike is and sort of how it fits into the motorcycling world, because a lot of people will call it an adventure bike. Yamaha kind of goes with more the rally bike. They sort of focus on their Dakar rally experience. Basically what this is a super versatile bike that is great on road. It's also very capable off-road, and one of the differences between this and a typical adventure bike is a little bit less weight, maybe a little bit more off-road than some. It can depend, but one of the key things you're going to hear about when you read the marketing materials of this, and I'm going to point it out in this video as well, is the packaging of everything. So they're really focused on weight distribution. They're really focused on rider position with the seat. We're going to show you some of that in a second here. And then they're also focused on high-end components in certain areas. So again, every motorcycle, doesn't matter what you are, is made to a price, and you have to balance where you're going to spend your money and where you're not. So there's some interesting choices on this bike, and I kind of agree with just about all of them. But the other thing you have to remember about this bike is this is sort of a base platform where a lot of manufacturers will give you a lot of packages. You can do that with this. Really what you want to do is look at the accessories on this bike. If this bike is too tall for you, you have two options. You can get a lower seat height. You can also get a lowering kit with a suspension, or lowering kit overall. Usually lowering kit affects the suspension. I haven't fully dug into that yet, but it does give you the option to have both the lower seat and a lowering kit if you think it's too tall for you. A lot of times that lowering kit, if it is a lowering suspension kit, if you're shorter, it's not so much the end of the world if your suspension lowers, because a lot of shorter riders are also a little bit lighter than very, very tall riders who might be a little bit heavier, and that loss in suspension travel may not make a difference to you. One thing I will point out, quality suspension, quality brakes, we're going to talk about all of that in this bike. And again, when we talk about accessories, if you want this to be a touring bike, there's little nubs here that you can strap things down from day one, but you can also add on accessory cases here. You can make this whatever you want. And one of the things I love about this bike is it is a great bike to do everything. Is it a sport bike? No, but it's probably sporty enough for most of your on-road driving. It's not going to be going to the track, but it can go just about everywhere else. And to me, that makes it a bike that's worth riding everywhere. So let's dig into some of the components. We're going to start at the front wheel, work our way back, talk about the components. We're going to work our way to that dash there. We're going to talk about some of those new modes, new features. Well, let's get going with that right now. So whenever I do my reviews, I like to start at the front wheel of a motorcycle, because that really gives you the idea of what the manufacturer was intending for this bike. And you've got a lot of interesting things going on here. First of all, you do have a 21-inch front wheel. Right away, that's going to tell you 21-inch front wheel, spoked wheel. You know that this is going to be something that is designed for off-road, and not just style either. This is a legit strong front wheel. And then you've got some interesting choices here as well. Sometimes in this class, you might not end up with upside-down forks. What you do is have upside-down forks here. Now, that's going to give you less unsprung weight, which means better suspension performance. It's going to give you more stiffness up top, which means it's a little more durable when you go off-road. And then it's also going to give you some style functions. You've got these cool fork tubes up top that are kind of gold color. But then you move down and you get into some real heavy-duty components here as well. You've actually got Brembo brakes. Now, Brembo brakes, of course, known for their stopping power. They're also known for sometimes being a little bit lightweight. I don't know if, now lightweight in, heavy duty as far as capability, but lightweight in the components. And again, that's going to contribute to less unsprung weight. What's interesting in this bike is, for most motorcycles, especially in this class and price point, if you put Brembo brakes on, they don't tend to put them on the rear as well. You've got Brembo brakes front and rear. Dual calipers here, so you've got good stopping power. So right away you can see that from a suspension perspective, with the adjustability, suspension, brakes, wheel, lightweight type components, or at least lighter weight components than you could have for the price point, right away you see that this thing is designed to have a great handling experience in all kinds of traction. So I really appreciate that, and I think that's one of the key pieces to this bike. Is most people don't need obscene superbike power, but they do want quality ride, quality suspension, and really have good control. And then right away from the front wheel, you're starting with that. Now if we look back a little further, you can see that is a steel skid plate there, not just a styling exercise. That is a piece of metal there that's going to protect the bike. Let's move our way back and start looking at some of those components. So normally this shot, I would talk about sort of the heart of the bike here with the engine. I really think the engine, although important, the heart of every motorcycle, the real talking point is probably suspension, riding position, other types of things. But this is a really good engine. This is basically the MT-07 engine thrown into an adventure rally style bike. So they call it a 700. I think it's 689 cc, just under 700 cc. So great for insurance purposes. Also fairly lightweight for the adventure class. You can get an oversized engine in the adventure class, and that will change the riding and handling characteristics. And they do talk a lot about packaging of this engine. So first of all, you've got that 270-degree crank, so they talk about that in this bike being the rally-inspired, the Dakar rally-inspired design there. But they also talk a lot about transmission and engine positioning and that kind of thing to have a compact area here for your engine. And what that does is it allows you to have a good handling bike. These adventure bikes are taller, so the weight is going to be higher than they would be on something like a sport bike or something like that. But you still have a compact weight in this bike. So you can see there's very little behind there, very little behind here. Having a twin cylinder bike, not a V-twin or something like that. Again, all of that, or a parallel twin instead of V-twin, all of that leads to a compact section. And even when you talk about transmission, they talk about how they stack that transmission, all about weight distribution. And you're also going to hear me talk about riding position. So they're really trying to make sure that this thing feels great when it rides. That's really the key here, more so than the power. Now, when we talk about power, you've got peak torque at 6,500 RPM. That's pretty low for a motorcycle. And that means you're getting all of that pulling power down lower in the revs, which again is going to contribute to fuel efficiency. So let's talk about fuel efficiency, and we'll pull back and we'll jump on the bike and show you a couple things there. So a lot of motorcycle manufacturers shy away from efficiency numbers, and to be frank, I also shy away from efficiency numbers in my videos because it can really depend on the type of riding you do, the type of rider you are, if you're a larger, smaller rider. There's so many factors here when you just have basically a body on an engine, which is different than a car, right? So a little harder to tell, but you do have a 16-liter tank. Now, a 16-liter tank can be small for an adventure bike, but it's efficient, and Yamaha doesn't shy away from saying you're going to get about 350 kilometers of range. That's right on their website. Now, again, I still think that could really vary. You'll probably be able to squeak out a little bit more if you're super efficient. You'll probably get a lot less if you're really aggressive. But because of the style of this bike, I'm not sure how aggressive you need to be to have an enjoyable experience. So that 16-liter tank, around 350 kilometers. Now, why is it important that it's a little bit smaller tank than some other adventure bikes? Well, to me, that again goes to what they're telling you with all of the packaging down here. Weight centralization. When you have an adventure bike, you've got usually a lot of fuel and a lot of it's up high, and that of course affects the handling ability of the bike. And this is a tall bike. I'm about 6 feet tall when I jump on this bike. You come across here, and again, I'm still tippy-toed even at around 6 feet tall. I think I have around a 32-inch inseam. So what I like about this bike is it's still a fairly wide seat. Sometimes you can go really narrow to get riding position here. Still fairly wide enough, and that's part of the reason why I have a little bit of a tippy-toe type thing here. I think if the seat was a little bit narrower, I might be able to get my feet a little closer, but for the size of this bike, it's pretty good. Now, what I do notice is once I tuck my legs up and in, it actually feels very narrow, and you can really move around the seat. I don't have a center stand, so I can't kind of show you both sides, but you can really move a long ways forward. And they talk about, in their marketing material, about how you can stand on the pegs very comfortably, and that is a handlebar to peg positioning thing, a geometry type thing. It's important to be able to stand on a bike that goes off-road because you want to be able to both absorb the bumps, to shift your balance, shift your weight. So being able to stand on this bike is something they built into it. And again, that's all about the packaging. And again, that's what makes it so enjoyable to ride. It feels lighter than it is when you're riding on this bike. And again, some of that has to do with actual lighter weight. When you have a little bit less fuel in the tank, it's going to be a little bit lighter, but it also has great positioning, great packaging to feel like a really maneuverable bike for an adventure slash rally type bike. Let's look around a couple of things on the back side, the other side here, and then we're going to head to this dash here, which is new, and we're going to talk about some of the features, including the 3-mode switchable ABS, which is new for 2024. So let's talk about a couple of those things and work our way around. So before I forget to cover this, I want to cover sort of the paint scheme here. Again, this is in Canada. You've kind of got, looks like the Rocky Mountains in here, which they probably are the Rocky Mountains because, again, it's the Canadian edition. You've got the Canadian flag, sort of the maple leaf down there. So just a couple cool, again, this is all stickered on. It's not done up, so instead of your Yamaha racing blue, you've got the sort of Canadian stickers. I kind of like the look here, and then again, if we jump back to the back side of the bike, we'll just zoom right into that. This bike has not been detailed yet. I actually was able to steal it from the before, just after they built it, before they even detailed it. So, you know, excuse the fingerprints on it, it's just been built. But again, you've got this 50th anniversary down here. Again, those Rocky Mountain kind of theme through the stickers of the red and kind of the, I don't know if it's gold or bronze, that kind of thing, and then the black paint there. Again, black paint really is showing fingerprints right now, just needs to be detailed up. One thing I will show you while we're sitting here is sort of that rear seat area and these little nubs right here. You've got the ability to, even if you don't get any luggage right from the start, you can strap things on here. So from day one, if you just have in your budget the bike instead of all the accessories for the bike, you can strap things down right from the beginning, which is nice to have. Staying here on the right side of the bike, I want to just show you the foot pegs here. So first of all, one thing that doesn't show on video is these are wider than the typical, typical like sport bike pegs or something like that. And then you do have the rubber insert in there. So of course that folds up. You could remove that rubber insert in there if you wanted to and just have the grippy sort of off-road pegs that, again, larger pegs. But again, that rubber insert is going to help with vibration, kind of has that soft squishiness to it. So if you're out on the road a long time, you don't want any vibration in the pegs at all, keep that rubber insert in. If you're out through the mud and you have boots that you just want to have really good grip, even when it gets muddy, take those rubber inserts out and you've got the good steel pegs. No need to upgrade to better pegs. You've got them right there. We're going to switch to the other side as well and show you a little bit on a shady side here, the gear shift side, because I want to show you a couple things there as well. All right, filming here at McLean's, I'm actually being a little bit lazy for you, but I hope you forgive me there. I'm not moving the bike away, and again, filming up against this wall here is a more shady side, but I want to show you a couple things. First of all, you've got this sort of aluminum look, and I don't even know if it is aluminum or not, kickstand there, and one of the things that's kind of cool about that, it looks different for a reason, because you actually have quite a large foot peg there. I don't know if I can sort of show you that, but you can see in my hands there, it is quite a large thing. So again, you don't have to add an accessory from day one to give you a little bit extra foot placement there. So again, if you're out parking in, dirty areas where it's not, properly paved everywhere, you do have a side stand that works. Again, you can add a center stand there as well. One of the other interesting things that you can add here is you have the shifter, but you don't have a quick shifter from the factory, but you do have it sort of pre-wired for a quick shifter. So you can upgrade that, whether at the time of purchase or whether later on. And again, you really need to look at the accessories when you buy this bike because there's so many little things you can add, but a quick shifter is one thing that can be added. It's worth noting. All right, let's take a look at some of the cockpit area, the controls, and especially that dash. All right, let's take a look at the left side controls first. We're going to move the camera just a little bit so you can see this cover does wrap around and connect on the side there. So again, if you're driving through, if you just need sort of wind protection, they can come off of here and stop right there. But this does give you the full protection wrap around. So again, if you're driving through sticks and debris, it will push outside your hands. Nice thing to have. Over here, controls are pretty simple. There's a trigger right here to flash your high beam, high and low beam right there. We've got to show you lights on this bike as well. They're pretty cool. And then you've got signal switch there. You do have a horn down there, and you do have a hazard light down by my thumb there as well. I really think hazard lights are important, especially on adventure bikes where you may be stopping in, less than desirable areas to park and check out your GPS or check out something like that. While we're here, we're going to zoom over to this area. You can see the top of this side fork tube. Both of them are identical. We're going to zoom right in there, and you can see some of that suspension adjustment. So again, you've got that ability to sort of get that, flat screwdriver in there and adjust the suspension. Both sides have the same kind of look to it. Not getting the best shot here, but hopefully you can sort of see what that is. So again, a lot of components here that are going to make it really rideable, and that's really a key piece. Now let's look up from there at the dash. Actually, we'll come out wide angle. First of all, one of the things I want to show you here is there's a couple little things that I like for a rally style adventure bike. First of all, you've got easy access to the handlebar. So again, if you want to add a phone mount or if you want to add a GPS type thing, you've got that round handlebar, super easy to get those kind of mounts. But you also have on top of the dash this bar up here behind the windshield, which can also give you an extra mounting point for something like a GPS as well. There is a USB port just behind over here. There's an ABS switch there. We'll show you that in a future shot here. Just give me a second, we'll get set up. All right, so taking a top-down view, just want to show you the center of your screen. Let's just zoom right in. There is a USB port right there. If we go over here, there's another little switch there, having some trouble getting it to focus, for the ABS on. Now remember, there's 3 modes of ABS. We're going to show you that actually in the screen instead of just showing you that button, but there is that button to the left side of the control there. So again, USB port over on the right that you can plug everything into. Let's get set up to show you this dash now. All right, we're going to take a look at the dash with it off for a second. We're going to turn the bike on. This is a 5-inch display. You can see in the shot I have the bezels. Now I can tell you in real life it's a little harder to see the bezels. The camera seems to pick that up really well. Again, it looks like sort of a full panel black screen. Larger bezels, I don't know that that's the end of the world. And then again, the 5-inch display here. Now I can tell you right now that the camera is washing out some of those colors. It's a nice clear, crisp display, 9,000 RPM redline, or just over 9,000 RPM redline. Again, 6,500 is maximum torque, so you're going to be driving in that mid-range, right around that mid-torque on this bike anyways. Now, there are a couple things going on here, and one thing I haven't figured out, so we're going to have to come back to that in a future video. There's 2 themes here, and there's a menu switch. We're going to show you the menu switch in a second here, but whoops, let me just go back to odometer. First of all, why don't we show you that there. We're flipping through instant fuel efficiency, all sorts of things, just down here, coolant temperature, all that kind of stuff. The bike's been sitting, so you have air temperature, all those things that you can kind of cycle through, typical trip fuel efficiency, trip odometer, that kind of thing. And then you can press in the menu button here, or actually hold it in here, and then you pull up the menu on the bottom there. So you have the settings there. Let's just show you what the settings say. You've got maintenance, you've got units, miles per hour, kilometers per hour, that kind of thing, brightness, clock, reset everything, and then you can kind of come back to, where's the back? There's the exit down to the bottom there. So we'll go exit. So we're going to cycle through ABS mode. We'll show you that in just 1 second. There's the themes here. The themes is what I was going to try to show you. I have not figured out how to change the themes on this. Even though I select sort of the Explorer theme, it's not letting me go to it. So there are 2 themes to this. I guess I just haven't figured that out yet. ABS modes, why don't we show you that right now? ABS on is where we're at right now. ABS off rear ABS off is an off-road mode. You can keep the front ABS on while allowing your rear wheel to slide when you hit that rear brake, or you can turn full ABS off if that's what you want to do. So I really like that they give you the option for both, depending on the conditions, depending on your skill level, depending on your comfort zone. You have the option to do any of the 3 there: ABS on, ABS off, and rear ABS off. So we're going to keep that there. Oops, there we go, cycle through. We're going to exit out. Oops, I'm cycling too far down because I'm looking at the screen instead of paying attention to my hand. So again, the controls aren't that hard to use. It's just me trying to film and do the controls at the same time. We showed you the settings, we showed the ABS, we showed you the themes, at least we tried to. And then you see a telephone messages as well. So when you turn this screen on, you're going to see on the top there, app connections, a small little display screen. This can connect to an app. We can do that in a future video if you like, so let me know if that's something you want to see in the future. We'll go back to that. But that's kind of your menu items. Now, how am I controlling this dash? Let me show you that right now. So over here on the throttle side, you've got your typical kill switch, start switch, all built in the same switch right there. And then you have your menu switch. So this is a scroll wheel that can also be pressed in. It is a little clicky feeling. I think that's important to have it clicky feeling so you have some feedback with gloves. It does look small, but it has aggressive grips in there. I don't think there's going to be any concern with sliding or rolling the wheel and pressing it in. Without gloves, I can tell you the clicky feels almost like it's snapping, almost like you're breaking something in there. But I think with gloves, that level of feedback, especially on a motorcycle, it's going to have some inherent vibrations in there. I think it's going to have enough feedback. So it's something that does take an intentional push to press in. It does have some clickiness to the rolling here. And I think that's going to be good for a gloved user while you're riding the bike. But standing in the showroom, you may feel like, oh, it's kind of clicky and that kind of thing. But I do think that feedback is built in for a reason. Again, same thing over here. I don't know if we showed you the mirrors as well. They don't come far off the stock. I think that's good for an adventure style bike. They're ending around the same spot as your handlebars. They do clear my shoulders and elbows and stuff. So, but that doesn't mean if you drop this bike, they're going to be inside there. Not super expensive looking mirrors to me, but they work just fine. I do want to show you the lighting, so let's take a look at the lighting right now. All right, taking a look at the face of this bike, this is essentially your daytime running lights or your driving lights kind of thing. They are quite bright on their own. Now, the reason you need lights like this, I've worked in the auto industry for a while and I started figuring out that some of these daytime running lights are getting brighter and brighter, and you can sort of see the reflection, the little blue lines up there, just above the screen there. The reason those are showing up on the camera is basically because these are very bright lights. Now, a couple things I want to point out. You do have your sort of marker lights here to give you some width so you can really choose that it is a motorcycle. But the reason you have these lights now is not just for visibility, it's because these lights are so focused with such a sharp cutoff, and you can see you've got quad lighting. So they talk about Dakar rally inspired lighting, but you've got quad lighting there, and those projector beam lights are so focused with such a sharp cutoff that sometimes, you can light the post to the stop sign, for instance, but not the stop sign itself. Or you can light the, the road signs that are road level, but not the overhead road signs. So what these lights, the reason they're so bright is because they filter everywhere, they shine sort of everywhere. That is actually what's going to be lighting up the road signs, because these ones would make those road signs glow so bright that you would have more trouble reading them. So this is going to light your reflective road signs. These are going to light your road up, and it's just a really smart design. Now the bike has to be running to turn on the lights. Let's just quickly do that for a second here. We'll turn it on. So there's your headlights there. High beams right there. Again, sharp cutoff there. I don't know if you can see there, but yeah, really sharp cutoff. If I bring my hand down below, it's very, 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 very bright. I can't bring the camera low enough on the tripod like I have it, but very, very bright lights there. So we'll turn that off again. But yeah, again, that really sharp cutoff means that those daytime running lights actually have a function instead of just style. Take a look at the rear of the bike. You do have, of course, your signals here. No marker lights on there, which is pretty typical stuff. We can throw those hazard lights on so you can sort of see that instant on, instant off LED signal lights. And of course, you also have your instant on, instant off LED brake lights. So quality looking lighting all the way around. Again, good for safety for a bike that's going to be out in the middle of nowhere. And you want to be visible. Good lighting all around. So let's talk about who this bike is for. First of all, that 700cc engine is kind of a marketing number. Yes, it is above 650, and a couple competitors to this would be Suzuki, sitting there with their V-Strom 650 and 800, so just under and just above it. Again, this is under 700cc. You can maybe look at Kawasaki's line of 650 type bikes, and they've got the Versys, but the Versys, for instance, is an on-road only bike. This is far more off-road. So then you look at KLR 650, which is again much less powerful, bigger fuel tank, more of a traveling adventure bike, which is going to be lower priced and far lower spec. So where this bike really hits you in that adventure class is giving you great off-road ability because of the great suspension, the adjustability of the suspension. And the adjustable suspension is one of those key things, because you can make a great off-road bike and have the wrong suspension set up for the type of off-road roading that you're going to be doing, and you may want to change your off-road suspension settings from your on-road suspension settings. So having adjustable suspension, I think, is a big thing. Throwing on Brembo brakes front and rear shows you that you're committed to stopping, you're committed to the ride. And again, the MT-07 engine is almost the downplayed piece of this, but that's a legendary engine. Great for reliability, great for fun. That 270-degree crank just makes it sound great, react great, that kind of thing. And it's pretty telling when you look at this bike and say that a great engine is probably the number 3 or 4 thing you mention on this bike compared to things like suspension, technology, and everything else. So to me, who is this bike for? This bike is for someone who wants a very versatile bike that will be going off-road. And when I say off-road, that might just mean dirt and gravel roads or poor roads, but whatever level of off-road you're going to go to, that's what this bike is made for. You can go further than your riding skill would typically allow you on a bike like this, and that's what makes it pretty special to me. Throw in some of the technology. The new screen is fantastic. It's very easy to read. Not everybody loves the screens, but they are good. The ABS with that 3-mode ABS, switchable ABS, really, again, allows you to customize that. So it's the kind of thing, if maybe your adventures just are going to take you down dirt roads, but you have the option of going down that dirt trail now. Maybe you're saying, hey, I know for sure I'm going to be on those dirt trails, and this bike will get you there as well. But you can also put up pretty great highway miles in this. It is a little bit more of a narrow windshield, but it has extra little flares on the side here from the narrow windshield there. It's going to give you enough wind protection to sort of have that easy riding experience, but it's still going to let the air get to you to cool you down on a hot day. So to me, this is a pretty versatile bike for that off-road sector. Now let's go back to the on-road side of things. It still has that lightweight maneuverability, and now again, not super lightweight overall, but generally feels lightweight on the road. When you start going to the accessories, adding panniers or boxes essentially to travel with is a great idea, but that also increases the versatility of this as a day-to-day bike. So throwing that ABS on, going in poor road conditions, that kind of thing, you can go to work, you can go to school, you can do your things and take your stuff with you in lockable things. You can add some performance fun by adding a quick shifter to this, which allows you to just have a little bit more fun with it that way. There's a ton of options, and again, if it's a little too tall for you, you can lower it down through a factory lowering kit, a factory lower seat option. So many options to make this bike a one bike that does everything. So what does it not do? This is not a sport bike, and that's really the only thing that this bike can't do. By leaning towards a more of a off-road ability, you're gonna step away from something like your track ability. Now, I still think just because of the geometry, the feeling, everything of this bike, you are probably gonna have the average rider feeling this is plenty sporty enough for all of their on-road adventures, but that's the only sacrifice you make. And I think people who are looking at this bike are fully aware of that and fully ready to ride this. This is a super impressive bike. This is the 2024, filmed here in Canada with a Canadian edition. I kind of like these colors. They make it look really unique. If this is the bike for you, you can swing on by McLean's Sports here in Fredericton, New Brunswick. They are absolutely fantastic. They will take care of you. I know there's 2 of them. I think one's already sold, but of course more are coming in. And if you have questions about this bike or anything in the Yamaha lineup, make sure you let me know in the comments, because I get to come back to this bike again and again in the videos. Maybe able to ride it this summer as well. And we'll make sure we try to get you the answers that you need. So thanks everybody for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.